Hi everyone, my name is Demian Borba. I'm a developer who loves the web and also teaching and learning all about AngularJS. Recently I created a training called Angular Bootcamp, and I'm here to show you one of the exercises that we do during this bootcamp. We're going to use Angular Material, who follows all the guidelines from Google Material, the material design that Google created, and also we're going to use one service from Angular called HTTP, where you can consume RESTful APIs and any sort of API very easily and very fast. We're going to create a Flickr searcher. We're going to search for Flickr images, and we're going to create a responsive app using Angular. So let's see it. We can start by creating a folder here for a project. Let's call it Flickr Search. And then in terminal we can navigate to that folder, and we're going to use Bower to manage our packages. So let's create a bower.json very quickly here. That's good. And then we can use Bower to install the packages we need. So we're going to install Angular and then Angular Material. And Angular Material requires Angular Animate, Angular Area for accessibility for rich internet applications, Hammer.js for all the gestures, and we're gonna save this to our bower.json file. Nice. Now we can open this folder in WebStorm. I really like WebStorm for all my Angular projects because it has really nice code completion and it increases my productivity a lot. So the first thing we're going to do here is let's create a index.html file. I'm going to call it Flickr Search. Nice. Then we're going to add our viewport here. That's fine. And in order to use Angular Material in our project and get all those amazing components, we have to add some CSS files. So the first CSS file we need is Angular Material, so let's add that. Angular Material means CSS. Then we also need the theme that we're gonna use, so I'm gonna use the blue one, it's blue theme.css. Then we're gonna create our own CSS for some minor adjustments, and we're gonna call it style.css. That's fine. And we can have WebStorm helping us to create that file. We're gonna write it in a bit, so that's fine for now. And we're also gonna add our fonts. So CSS, and for that we're going to use Google Fonts, so fonts.googleapis.com/CSS, and then family, we're going to use Roboto Draft 400, 500, 700, 400 italic. That's nice for now. And on the JavaScript side of things, for any Angular application we need Angular, so let's import it here. So Angular main.js, that's the first one. We're gonna use Angular Material, and for that we need some guys. So first one is Angular Area for all the accessibility stuff. Then Angular Animate, for all the animations. Then we're gonna need Hammer.js, and lastly we need Angular Material itself, so script Angular Material.js. That's nice. And we're gonna have our own JS file, so let's create it right here. We're gonna call it app.js, and we're gonna have WebStorm helping us on creating it. Here we're gonna define our immediately invoked function expression to preserve our global scope. So use strict to give us nice errors and keep our code clean. And let's start writing our Angular app here. So the main module is gonna be, let's call it Flickr App, and this module has one dependency, another module, and that's ng material. That's the only dependency, the only module that this app we're creating needs. So in order to have an Angular material working well, we have to have ng material here. And we're gonna define a controller for our view. So let's give it a name of list controller. We're gonna have Angular, we're gonna help Angular by adding here on the second parameter the array style for the dependency injection. So we're gonna need scope, and then the last item in this array is the function with scope here. So now everything is gonna be preserved for the minification and work well. We're gonna use that service I mentioned before, HTTP, for all the HTTP requests there to consume the API, the Flickr API. So that's it for now. So our starting point is done. So let's get back to our index and let's start playing with material design. So now that we have our app there defined, we can have our Angular app initiated here. We can have our controller here, this controller, and Angular material has a very nice layout system that we can use here. So we're gonna use layout column, and for the align we can have top and center to look more like an app. And let's start by adding a toolbar. So ng toolbar with a div here with a class ng toolbar tools, and in here we're gonna have a span with ng flex class. This is gonna be our title. Let's call it Flickr Search. It's gonna be the title. If we did everything right and we test this, we're gonna see our top bar there and it's responsive, it works nice, and let's move on. So below this, on this white area, we're gonna have if we have more content, we're gonna have here a text field, and once we hit enter, we're gonna display all the images coming from the Flickr API, and we're gonna have a scroll bar on this white area to display the vertical content. To do that, we want the toolbar locked on the top, and we're gonna have the content scrolling below it. And to do that, we need an MD content, material design content tag, and we're gonna place all the code inside here. So let's keep layout column as well. We want it vertical, and we want it to be in here. We're gonna have a class called app content. We're gonna define it in a bit. So there's a nice padding here for our code, and we're gonna have inside here, we're gonna have our text field and all the images being displayed. So let's have a form here for our text field. We're gonna have a form. We're gonna have ng submit, the core directive from Angular. So this replaces the default action, and we're gonna have a method in our controller called search that every time we hit enter, this method is gonna get called. In here, in this form, we're gonna have our text field to be filled out by the user. So md text float, our label will be search for, and then type something. We need an ng model here, so Angular creates a model, and the name of this model will be search term. So now we can access the value of the input because it's binded to this model. And so let's see how it looks. If we test this, we can see we have a very nice. This is amazing because once I'm typing, I can remember what the label is because it's still there. I really like this guy. But we need some CSS adjustments. I don't want this touching the left. I want this gray line to go all the way on the app. So let's edit a little bit our CSS. So for the main app, we're gonna have a width of 100%. For the form that we have there, we're gonna have some padding. Let's do 10, 30, 20, and 25 pixels of padding. Then for that input, we're gonna have a class called long. We're gonna define it, and for all the inputs in there, we're gonna have a width of 100%. So if we test it now, if we go here and we add this class long and you test our app, you see that now there's a nice padding and that line goes all the way there, and it is responsive, so it works across all devices. Nice. So now let's move on and add the images that will show up once we hit enter. For that, we're going to use the md card directive, and it has an image. For now, we can use that placeholder API. Let's say 300 by 200. It's fine for now, and we can have a class here, image card, md card image. Nice. And we're gonna have a title, so image title. Nice. So if I see it now I have my image with a card, and there's some nice adjustments, but I don't like the padding here, so I can go here and just finish. For all the md cards, we're gonna have a margin of 0 on the top, 30, 25, 30. So now there's a nicer padding there, and because of the margin, everything is more responsive and it looks nice. Cool. So now let's go here and let's make it work. First thing we're gonna do is we need to define that search method. So every time we hit enter, we have access to the search term model, and we can use the HTTP service from Angular to use the Flickr API. So let's do it right now. So let's do HTTP, and this guy takes an object that defines the call. So the first item is method, and in our case this is going to be a simple get. Then the URL for Flickr, we have HTTPS API flickr.com services REST. And the next item here is params, parameters, and this is an object. So all the parameters here will be added to this URL here. You can do it all in one line, but I'm gonna separate in this params object to make it easier. So method, this is what Flickr expects, and we're gonna use the Flickr Photos Search API. Then we need an API key, and to get one we have to go to Flickr, create a new. You go to flickr.com, services API keys apply. Then you ask for a non-commercial key. Then you tell a little bit about your app. You read it all, and then you get your key. This is your API key. Cool. Then the next item is the text, the search term that we have there. We can access that model by search term, and we get the content of that input. Then format, we want it as JSON. And the last item here is no JSON callback, set to 1. Perfect. This call here returns a promise, and if this promise resolves, we get success method here, and we run a function that takes all that data that's coming back from that API. If that doesn't resolve, if that rejects, then we have access to this guy here that takes the error, and we can display the data from the error. So error, you see it in red, in red here. Nice. So what we can do now is we're gonna use ngRepeat to make these cards dynamic, and they're gonna relate to an array that we're gonna have here in our, let's call it results. In the beginning it's gonna be an empty array, but once we get that data back, we can assign that to data. So as soon as we have a big JSON, and I'll show you how it looks. API. Once we call this, we get a JSON back, and it returns this photos that has it's called photo, but it's actually an array of objects, and each object has these pieces there. Once we put these pieces together, we get an image. So that's how it is. I know it's called photo, it should be, I don't know, photos because it's an array of photos, but that's how they did it. So now we have all these results in this array as soon as we get this data back. So let's get back here to our index.html file, and let's see if it's working. So ngRepeat, we're gonna have picture and results. That's our array there in the controller. Photos, as we saw, and then to access that array of photos, we check this photo guy here. That's the array, and we can use interpolation here to get the value picture title, to get the title of the picture, this one for example. Let's see if it's working. So I'll go back here, refresh, let's call it surf. Now we get back all the titles. Nice. So now let's create this URL for the images. So ng source to make everything Angular friendly, and we need to put this URL together. So that the way we do it is by putting those pieces together. So https:// farm and then picture dot farm, that's the first item, then dot static flickr.com/picture dot server /picture dot id, then underscore picture dot secret, and lastly we have to do underscore and then B for big, M for medium, or S for small. We're gonna go for big, and JPEG. That's all it is. So now if we refresh this, and let's see if I have something in my name. Nice. So we have all the titles, all the pictures coming from Flickr. Cool. But now there's a problem because we don't have good feedback for the user. As soon as I type something there, until the result comes, nothing happens. There's no feedback for the user. And we can use a nice guy here. We can use this loading images here that help a lot. We can do linear if you want, but I'm gonna use the circular one, which I found it very nice. So how can we accomplish that? We want to show this MD text float, and then as soon as we hit enter, this disappears, and then we're gonna show the loader. And to do that, we need to add the progress circular here. So MD progress circular, and this takes the theme. We're gonna keep it blue, and also the mode we're gonna do indeterminate. So it keeps going in circles. So let's see if it's there. It's there, but now we want to hide it and only show the text field. So let's do it. In order to do that, we're gonna wrap this guy in a div, and this div is only gonna show, we're gonna use the ng show directive here, only once we're not searching for anything. So we're gonna have a variable, a boolean variable there in our controller that changes. Once it's false, this we can see it. Once it's true, it goes away. And for this guy here, we can do, just to show you another directive, we can do ng if. So if it's searching, then let's show this guy. And the difference in between the if and the show is that the if, it's not even added to the DOM when it's not there, and the show is there, but it uses display none, so it's there, but it's in DOM, but you don't see it. So this is how we do. Now we need to create this guy there in our controller. To do that, it's super simple. Let's just create this variable is searching. Let's start it with false because we're not searching anything in the beginning. And then once we start searching, even before the request goes out, we have to set it to true. Once we get our data back, we can set it to false, and even if it's an error, we can set it to false. So now we can see so the loading is not there anymore, but once we hit escape, enter, then now we're providing good feedback for the user. So and it's super responsive and works really nice. So that's how you can get up to speed with Angular material. It's an amazing set of components that you have available there, so I really recommend you to go there. It's really worth it. I hope you like this video. Keep in touch. You can find me on Twitter, Demian Borba, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you very much. Have a good one.